The state of Pennsylvania had those rules challenged multiple times, each time by Democrats and Republicans on its state Supreme Court and by federal judges. Those challenges were dismissed. And so what you're seeing now is the result of a strong mandate for Joe Biden from the state of Pennsylvania and all of the other states that make up his electoral victory. So making sure that we understand that as we look at these counties, we're seeing a couple of things. One is a mandate, as I mentioned. The other is that we may be seeing again what this country has been dealing with for a while now in its elections, and that's polarization. Yes, the president won in areas where there's strong Republican support, strong independent support. But when you start to look at those counties where Democrats make up the majority, it's no surprise here why Joe Biden won.
And when you look at the map of Pennsylvania, when you look at where people voted, right now it's blue, right? The Associated Press calling it, it changes the full color of the state to blue. But when you look closer, some people, especially the president's supporters, may be saying there's a lot of red in that state. Can you just clarify, why those counties that we talked about, Bucks, Montgomery, Delaware County, why those being blue and having so many people in them really pushed Joe Biden over the edge to take this race?
Well, for a couple of reasons. And, some folks may criticize the president that this could partly be his doing here. He urged his folks to go out and vote on Election Day, not to rely on the mail. He denigrated mail-in ballots. And, as a result of that, most of his people showed up on Election Day. All right, so let's make sure that's clear. They showed up and voted in person. When you start to see how Democrats handle this election, where they put the emphasis on mail-in ballots, all of those mail-in ballots coming from those very large counties, they, in a sense, came in much of them came in before. The process for counting ballots in any given election is you start with the ballots that were cast on that day. You start with the ballots that came in terms of closer to the election deadline, and then you start to look at the other ballots that are there that came in that were postmarked by the proper time. You start to count those ballots. So it's the same sort of situation in Milwaukee. You saw the same sort of pattern where the Republican vote came in and they voted mainly in person. And it looked like that the president was going to have this large margin of victory. But then, the ballots that came in by mail into Milwaukee, in the Milwaukee County areas, they started to get counted. And, that's just the electoral process. This is not some sort of mystery or anything like that. And in terms of, why the margin of victory was so big, we're talking about turnout. As Joe Biden mentioned last night, he got 74 million votes. That is a massive turnout. And to the contrary, President Trump got a record number of votes in Ohio, right? When you're looking at Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, you are looking at Democratic states. They switched in the last election. That was not the norm. That was the anomaly. They tested out President Trump. They gave him an opportunity, but most of those voters were Democratic. And so whether they gave him their support by a vote or whether they simply gave him their support by not voting, which was the case especially in Philadelphia, you start to look at the turnout in those cities. It was a strong turnout for Hillary Clinton at all. The president ran up against two things: a strong turnout and a candidate who was more favorable than Hillary Clinton. And that's, kind of the ball game there. When you look at how folks are viewing the president in those states, right? Is he viewed, more positively in Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida? Yes, but these are Democratic states that have decided to go back to the Democratic Party. So while the president and his supporters may be seeing this as some sort of electoral shenanigans or fraud, which it isn't, this is simply a state that is dominated by Democrats deciding once again to support the Democratic Party.
So you talk about these Democratic states. When we come out of Pennsylvania, we look at the nation, we're going to be hearing, and we've already started hearing it from commentators, the blue wall. It was the blue wall, building back this blue wall. Can you just describe for our viewers what the blue wall consists of and how Democrats are arguing they were able to build that back up and get Joe Biden that victory?
Okay, well, the blue wall, of course, is Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. That's been the backstop for Democrats in almost every single
Y'all
presidential
see who
election
won, right?
in recent memory.
Thank
Occasionally,
you,
you'll
Lord.
see
I just want to say
Republican
thank you,
candidates
Lord.
perform strongly in those states. But you got
Because
to go back, though, right?
honestly, we needed a
To
break.
find a candidate that has been
Thank
that
you
successful
to
in
all the
those states.
people that showed
For the
up
most
and
part, these states have
showed
voted
out.
Democrat. And when you